Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about reading strategies, and the Zaption video is a nice way for us to do a range of different things and for me to check in to see whether you're understanding as we go. What we're focusing on here when we talk about teaching reading strategies is that we want to develop strategic readers, not just talk about specific isolated reading strategies. So teaching strategic reading is the idea that reading teachers should help students become strategic readers rather than simply focusing on reading strategies in isolation. And we often see that in textbooks. So we're going against that idea and really focusing more on the reader and making them a strategic reader. What is strategic reading? Well, weak readers tend to decode a text word by word, whereas stronger readers have a broader set of skills and strategies. They're aware of how they read. They monitor their comprehension of a text. They change and adapt their use of strategies to improve their comprehension of more difficult texts. So, in other words, stronger readers or strategic readers are those who engage in more metacognition. Not only do they have a broader set of strategies that they rely on, but they're really aware of it and flexible about it. So that is what we're trying to develop, not only specific strategies, but also that idea of a strategic reader. So, what are reading strategies? Different scholars have different lists of strategies or different definitions of what a strategy versus a skill may be, and you'll notice that in our reading. But so Michaletsky calls them skills, and you can see her list on page 40. Grabe and Staller have a shorter list called strategies. You can check those out as well on page 10. And Presley and colleagues identify the ones that are most important for comprehension on Grabe and Staller, page 146. So you may want to take a moment to look at those lists of strategies. Here's the one from Grabe and Staller on page 10. You might want to pause the video and look over these and just think about which of these strategies do you use, which of these strategies do you not usually use. And you can look at this list and think about which of these strategies might be helpful for your learners. So Grabe and Staller's strategies are what they define as strategies are those that are consciously applied. It's a set of abilities under your reader's conscious control. However, many abilities that are commonly identified as strategies become relatively automatic when fluent readers use them. So they may not be thinking about them, but they are things that we can consciously control. Strategies are often used in combination when we're reading, so good readers use a combination of strategies automatically, but they activate a more conscious problem-solving approach when they run into trouble with a particular reading. So for example, I may be reading along, I may automatically scan ahead to see what the subtitles of a chapter are, or read the first and last sentence of the article to get a sense of what it's about, or I might sort of automatically think about the title and what it means for what to expect in the reading. Those are all good strategies. As a good reader, I might do that automatically, but a struggling reader might not know that they should stop and do that. They might be reading word by word or sentence by sentence. We can think about some strategies. All those strategy lists are great. There is some indication that there are specific strategies used in the online environment, and so I brought in this table from Schmar-Dobler. Like on the left, activate prior knowledge. That's something that readers do for any reading. In a book, readers recall experiences and information relating to the topic. On the internet, similar strategies are used. When you think about monitoring and repairing comprehension, um, in a book or a text, readers adjust their reading rate depending upon the purpose of reading. So readers read differently depending upon why they're reading a text. On the internet, skimming and scanning becomes crucial for reading because of the sheer volume of text and the way that text is organized. We need to be able to find the text that we're looking for depending on our purpose. So you can look across this table and see how are things slightly different on the internet. Internet requires more active reading and more searching for the text that is appropriate for your purpose. Whereas reading a book, you have the book already there and you're sort of planning to read it from start to finish. So there's not as much choices about what in particular to read. Let's look at some of the questions that strategic readers ask. So asking questions is a particular kind of strategy, and people who are more strategic in their reading will tend to ask a lot of questions as they read. So for example, let's take a look at some of these. Make this view bigger. Zoom in and zoom in. Okay, looking at a list of questions that strategic readers ask. Making connections. What do I know about the topic? What does this story remind me of? Things like that. Understanding text structure. Trying to figure out what kind of text is this. Is this cause effect? Compare and contrast. And using the text structure to organize, for example, note taking or remembering information. Monitoring for understanding. How does what I'm reading make sense? What can I do if I don't understand? Visualizing. Does this story create a picture in my mind? Can I make a connection to my life from the picture? Retelling and summarizing. Some people do this like as they take notes, or they might write little notes in the margin. What happened? What were the main ideas? What were the main events in each chapter? What changes occurred? So strategic readers will stop and retell or summarize the story as they go and at the end. Inferring. What clues in the text help me to make meaning? What changes in character setting mood have taken place? And predicting, based on facts and inferences, what do I think might happen next? So these are the kinds of things that strategic readers are doing as they go. Do you ask these kinds of questions? Do you teach your students to ask these kinds of questions? Okay, now we're going to turn to that idea I started with, which is developing strategic readers through instruction, not just teaching individual strategies. Concept-oriented reading instruction is an example. They claim that developing strategic readers is the goal, and they promote intrinsic motivation, autonomy, self-efficacy, collaboration, and mastery. Reading instruction in the concept-oriented reading instruction accomplishes this by being relevant, by providing for student choice, by providing students opportunities for success, engaging in cooperative and group activities such as literature circles, and engaging in thematic units that are aimed toward content mastery. So maybe using a project, thematic units, content-based instruction. The way that concept-oriented reading does this is through regular, explicit instruction in reading strategies, and also vocabulary development. So we'll talk about vocabulary development in a later module. Coherent content, in other words, that kind of thematic, instruction that carries content or ideas all the way through the instruction, and student choice. So allowing students to choose their text or choose what they want to read about. Reading fluency development, extensive reading, and integrated reading and writing. So this Corey instruction just kind of summarizes all the best things about reading instruction, including regular explicit instruction and reading strategies. But when you yourself are teaching reading instruction, you might want to model your own instruction after these components of Corey because it integrates all the most important aspects. I would say, I would emphasize also that idea of um, developing oral proficiency and allowing for a lot of interaction around writing. But if you include that along with Corey instruction, you're really going to have the most important aspects of literacy instruction. Okay, think back to one specific experience with second language reading instruction that you have engaged in as a teacher or as a learner. And then think about, did the instruction seem to include all of the things that were in the Corey list? When you've had reading instruction, did you have explicit instruction and strategies? Was vocabulary explicitly developed? Was the content and the ideas coherent? And did you have choice? Did you develop reading fluency? Did you also have an extensive reading program? And did you integrate both reading and writing together? What was not included and why was it not included? Um, are there any specific aspects of instruction you do not understand? Are you not sure of what it would look like, or do you question its relevance or importance in your particular teaching context? On another note, what kinds of metacognitive or reflective activities have you experienced in your reading instruction? And finally, when we go to our whole class group discussion, you can talk about these issues. It's later in the module. Okay, I'm going to stop there.